Hey everybody, I'm Tim and welcome back to the vlog. Today I want to dive into a not directly cigar related subject, but really related to the cigar world because now I'm coming up on a decade in the cigar industry, which has given me a lot of time to think about the premium cigar world. And there's something that I think is, to me, a bit of a hidden gem of being in cigars. I don't even think people in cigars appreciate this maybe as much as we could. And if you go to a local cigar lounge or you sit around with other cigar smokers, maybe this hidden gem is sitting right in front of you the whole time and you don't even know it. For me, it's ultimately a way that I see the cigar industry as preparing me to extend my longevity of life, which sounds kind of weird, I think, to most people, because when most people think about smoking, they think about shorter life. And certainly I'm not implying that by smoking, you'll extend your life in any way. That seems antithetical to rational thought, especially for these platforms. But the truth is, I think that behind it, there's something to learn here that comes with great benefits. And it is spending a lot of time around old people. That is something that seems to be inherent to the cigar world. If you go sit down in a lounge, you're going to find yourself most likely sitting around some old timers. These are guys who were sometimes 10, 15, 20, hell, in some cases even 30 years down the road from where you are. And that means it's like when you go outside at night and you look up at the stars and you're literally looking back in time at light that's traveled here from millions of years ago. Sitting in a cigar lounge is like doing the opposite. It's like looking down the road at where life might take us 20, 30 years from now. And I think that there's a lot to learn from that. When I first started working with my partner, Jim, he was literally double my age. And, Jim sat down and his big pitch to me about Cigars Daily was this. He said, Tim, I've been in business for myself for 40 years. I've got nobody to leave all of what I've learned to. He said, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had a lot of successes. He's like, I'm sort of in the sunset of my life. I've got no one to teach all this stuff to. And if I invest in you, then I'm also investing in my daughter and my grandkids. And for the last 7 years of Cigars Daily, that's exactly what Jim and I have done together. It's been an amazing thing. And it's been that entire process of mentorship with Jim, but also being connected with Jim and the guys that come in the lounge means I get to learn all the other stuff from guys who have lived decades longer than me as well. Stuff like what's going to happen to my prostate as I get older, what to look for as you see signs of cancer and different things like that popping up, heart disease and how to take care of your body. A lot of you guys have noticed I've lost a tremendous amount of weight recently. I've had my own health issues, but there are things that keep me on the straight and narrow for keeping my weight off every single day. So these days I look along the road, and for most part, I sit down and I listen to these guys talk, guys in their 60s and 70s and sometimes even in their 80s, and they talk about what they have to go through just to live a daily, like a regular day of life. And typically I'm sitting across the room just gobsmacked at the difficulty that comes with stuff. And there's a few lessons I've learned. I'll share a couple of them with you here, but I think that the key to this is if you get the opportunity to sit down and listen to somebody who's further down the same road that you're on, even if it's just that you're a guy and you're listening to an older guy, or you're a gal and you're listening to an older gal, somebody who's made some of the same mistakes you might make, or had some victories that you're looking to have, just being able to sit down and listen to that, I think that that's one of the most valuable things that a person can get a hold of. And in my opinion, the cigar world contains that in a special way. Like, those people are accessible in a normal cigar lounge. They're the people who have done all the work, retired, and they sit down and at the very least you can learn what not to do. From somebody who's made enough mistakes and never learned from their own mistakes, you can learn a whole hell of a lot. Or from somebody who's been overwhelmingly successful, you can learn really what you want to learn. So here are a few things that for me have been big critical lessons that I've taken away from knowing guys who are much older and much more experienced than me. So the first one's really about those mistakes. And, I think being a young buck, I always wanted to I didn't want to make mistakes. Mistakes felt like failure. And They are. Mistakes are failure. But at the same time, like, it's learning from that failure that's really ultimately the value. So it's a lot like playing a football game. You can drop the pass, you can fumble the ball, but you get up and you move on to the next play. And if you can do that without beating yourself up too much, then you're gonna score a lot more touchdowns, to use a football term, which I don't understand at all, but I think that that's how it works. The second one is, do not mess around with the colonoscopy bit. If it comes to the insides, like your guts and your like colon and your prostate and all that stuff, take that stuff abundantly seriously. Oh my gosh. The number of guys that I have met who just didn't take good care of themselves early on and didn't pay attention to little warning signs, the ocean of problems that you can incur in your life are incredible. So when the doctor says colonoscopy, say, sign me up. If something's going on with the prostate, pay close attention to it. And the other really big one is, and I've noticed this with almost everybody, and most likely, even if you're young, you're learning this now, when it comes to medical stuff, you really have to be your own advocate. Like, nobody's going to advocate for your health in the way that you are. So when a procedure's coming down the line or something's going wrong, learn about what that thing is and learn about what's best for you. Because for a doctor, it's much easier to just put you on something, prescribe you with something, throw something at the wall to see if it sticks as far as a cure for something, or put you onto a regimen that benefits the bottom line and doesn't really benefit your health. And so I've learned a lot about statins. There's a lot of old guys that really don't like statins, but then there are some people who do. But you got to kind of like be your own advocate. You're the only one who cares about your health that much. The doctor's never going to do that. The next one came from a cigar maker. And this was one of my favorite things to hear. This is a cigar maker who's been doing this for decades. And if I said his name, you'd absolutely know who it was, but I didn't ask him, so I'm not gonna out him. I was talking with this guy with Terrence, and Terrence is the one who asked the question, what's the one thing you wish you had known when you first got into this? And this multi-decade, very famous cigar maker said, I trusted too many people. I trusted the wrong people. And now, after doing this for so long, my circle is a lot smaller. And personally, I haven't been like in business that long. It's been 6-7 years, which is nothing, especially compared to this cigar maker I'm referencing. That is one of my big takeaways. My circle is a lot smaller than it used to be. I still like people. I still enjoy people. I haven't become like bitter against the human race. It's not like Dr. Evil where I'm going to try to destroy the world. But certainly, like, you think twice about trusting people after you have so many interactions where it sort of feels like you get burned again and again. Come as a guy who came out of church ministry, where a lot of church ministry guys lead with trust. They trust, in my opinion, maybe too much, too soon. Like, it's definitely interesting to be on the back end where, with most people that I meet now, trust is something that comes a little slower, takes a lot longer to build, and can be lost in an instant. And of course, the last one may even be the most profound, but that is this. As people get older, and all of us will do this, you ain't going to take a damn thing with you when you go out of this world. You come into it naked and you're going to leave it with absolutely nothing. And so have fun and enjoy people, invest in the right things in life. There was a guy who came in the lounge. He used to come in the lounge all the time named Doc. Doc was such a cool guy. He rolled his own cigars. He loved life, had a beautiful, wonderful wife. And Doc stopped coming in after a while. And eventually he called the shop. He said, hey, I haven't been ghosting you. I have pancreatic cancer and I'm going to die. And Jim and I went over to his house, and this is one thing a lot of old guys think about. I see a lot of old guys who are trying to situate their stuff so they don't leave a bunch of work to their wife when they die. This is one of the most common things that I've seen. Dudes who are like, hey, I want to sell the Harley. I want to sell off my guns. I need to get rid of all, like, if there's a hint that something's going on, they want to simplify their life so that if they're removed from the picture, they're thinking, and that's, I think, one of the best things a man can do for his family is say, okay, I'm going to set them up for success. I'm going to make sure that we're financially secure, but I'm also not going to leave them with a bunch of extra work. This is like solid thinking. So Doc called Jim and I, wanted to sell off some of his things that he didn't want to have to leave behind for his wife. So we went and tried to help him with that. But ultimately, like, Doc's whole thing was, he's like, I ain't going to take nothing with me. He called me. He said he had 2 or 3 months to live. And we went over and he just gave me all of his whiskey collection, which now sits behind my desk. And so if you ever watch our short videos on Cigars Daily's channel, that's Doc's booze behind me. All of his cigars, and he had, I have to guess, at least 2,000 cigars he gave to me and said, please, he said, smoke some of these, but just make sure they end up in the hands of U.S. active duty soldiers. And that's one thing we worked really hard to do. And we've got most of those 2 soldiers now. We got a few more to do, and then we're going to be sending some of our own. It's just like, here's a dude whose entire life, Doc was 66 when he died, I think, 68 maybe. He had been retired for 20 years, and just not even that old. Cancer got him within a month of when he called me. And he told me, he was like, yeah, I got 2 or 3 months. And a month later, he was gone. And so life is like that, though, you know? Everything about life is happening right now. It's not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. It didn't happen a month ago or a week ago or a day ago. It's all happening right now when you're watching this video. You can literally turn this video off and life is happening in that moment. And that's what we have to take with us. That's what I love about, again, cigars. Cigars are about a moment. They're about taking a moment and making it a little bit more special. A conversation you could have with another person highlighted by the fact that you're both sharing an incredible premium blend, right? Community that's created in a cigar lounge in a unique way that you just don't see anywhere else in our society anymore. And for young people like me, the opportunity to get to know and meet a lot of people with a lot of experience and wisdom that I myself would never have access to unless I sit down, shut my mouth, open my ears, and listen. And if you're young like me, I would invite you to join me on that same journey. Hey, and thank you so much for joining me here on the vlog channel. Drop a comment down below. And what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten from somebody who's older than you? I would love to hear that. Drop it down in the comments. Thanks for watching. This is Tim signing off for the vlog, and I'll see you in the comments.